In this AWS IAM tutorial for beginners, we are going to learn about IAM user groups and IAM roles. All right, guys, I hope that you're doing fantastic. And this is DevOps Molvi once again uh, after a very long time. And I apologize for that huge break. So let's get started. And without any further ado, we should start from where we left. Actually, in the last chapter, we discussed about the IAM security recommendations. You can see on my dashboard, everything is all good and there are no security recommendations. And also, we created IAM users and we learned about IAM policies. Today, we are going to talk about IAM user groups. Here you can see that I don't have any IAM user group, but first let me highlight the importance of creating a group in AWS IAM. For instance, in a team where there are 100 DevOps engineers, and all of those DevOps engineers need EC2 full access. So instead of attaching policies to independently with each IAM user, I will be going to create a user group, and then I will add all those 100 DevOps engineers into that group. I will just attach a single EC2 full access policy with that group, and automatically all the users in that group will get the full EC2 access. That is actually the core purpose of creating a group. Instead of attaching policies independently with IAM users, it is a recommended practice to create an IAM user group and add the users into that group. Okay, and honestly, it is one of the most simplest thing to do. First of all, let me create an IAM users. Yeah, I have Adam DevOps and David DevOps. Let me create another one, create user, so that we have our IAM user creation drill revised. Manoj. This is the username. Okay, and since most of the audience on my channel is from India, so I will prefer that Indian name, Manoj, and also Abhishek, and these names are so common in India. I want to create an IAM user. Click on that button, auto generated password. Users must create. I will not I will uncheck this box, and next. Now here you can see I can add a user directly into a group from here, and all the permissions of that group will automatically assign to the Manoj user. But for now, I am not creating any policies here. I'm not attaching any policies directly, and I'm not adding any and I'm not adding Manoj user to a group because I have not created any group so far. So click on next, and everything is perfect here. So I can download the CSV, which contains the Manoj credentials like the sign-in URL, username Manoj, and its password. Now return to the user list. You can see I have 3 IAM users. Now I will go to IAM user groups, and from here we can add identity and access management users. So use groups to specify permissions for a collection of users, right? So just like I have given you the example of EC2, for instance, 100 DevOps engineers, and all of them want to have the EC2 full access. Instead of attaching policies independently with those users, we are going to add all those users into that group. Now click on create group. Group name is EC2 team, and here I will select the users that I want to be added into that group. All the users, I have selected 3 users, and here I will attach the policy with the group. Okay, now this policy EC2 full access is going to be attached to that group. Create user group. Now you can see the user group has been created, EC2 team. And in this group, there are three users, Adam DevOps, David DevOps, and Manoj. And all these three users have EC2 full access permissions. How? Because those permissions, EC2 full access, is attached to that EC2 team group. And certainly, all these three users will enjoy EC2 full access. Okay, so we can also add more permissions from here. For instance, if I want to grant these users S3 full access, so I will simply attach the S3 full access policy with this group. Okay, attach policies. That's how we can attach more permissions with a group. Now, if I go back to the IAM users list, I will refresh it. Now click on Manoj. I will click on Manoj here, and I want to review the permissions attached to this user. Since I didn't attach any policy directly with Manoj user, you can see it still has two permission policies, EC2 full access and S3 full access. And this Manoj user is getting these permissions from this EC2 team group. Okay, because these policies are attached via the EC2 team group. So that's how we can, that is actually the core benefit of creating an IAM user groups. So similarly, if I go back to IAM user and I want to check David DevOps, so David DevOps should have these two permissions, and some permissions have been attached directly with this user. Now here you can get the summary of permissions that are attached to any user, right? And here you can see this David DevOps user has actually 4 permissions. 2 permissions were attached via the EC2 team group. These 2 permissions, S3 full access and EC2 full access. And the rest of the 2 policies were attached directly with the David DevOps user. So you have learned the difference between the policies that are attached via a group or attached directly with any user. Now here in this user group, you can see I have these 3 users, and it is the DevOps manager choice. Any user, for instance, David DevOps has resigned, and I want to revoke his access, and I will simply remove this user from the group. Select David DevOps and click on remove, and again click on remove. This David DevOps will no longer have the EC2 or S3 full access. We can also check from here IAM users and David DevOps, and after that I will delete this IAM user David DevOps. If I refresh, now there are no policies. There shouldn't be any policies that are attached via EC2 team group. These policies were attached directly. The group policies have been removed. Okay, I hope that you have learned the core purpose of creating an IAM user group, and that's how we can simply create IAM user groups, and we can add IAM user into a certain group, and we can attach policies with the group, and all the users within that group will get those permissions, right? So that was a core concept of identity and access management. Now we must talk about the roles. Roles are actually the temporary permissions. Okay, in order to avoid our passwords or hard-coded keys, we must create roles. Role, just like the definition says here, an IAM role is an identity you can create that has specific permissions with credentials that are valid for short durations. Okay, when we have any stuff, when we want to do any job, we just create a role. That role will do the job, and we do not need any hard-coded keys, S3 keys, or AWS keys, we can use IAM roles. Roles can be assumed by entities that you trust. Uh, Let me give you a, a couple of examples because this is one of the most important concepts in IAM. For instance, if I go to EKS, I will give you a practical example of the importance of IAM roles. In Elastic Kubernetes Service, which is actually a fully managed Kubernetes service on AWS, whenever we create an EKS cluster, it actually creates virtual machines using EC2. And therefore, it is obvious that EKS will definitely need the access to EC2. I hope that you are getting my point. Let me repeat. We are going to create a Kubernetes cluster. Click on create cluster. Okay. Whenever I create a cluster, it behind the scenes, this cluster will spin up a few virtual machines on EC2. Okay, so that's why we need two roles attached to the EKS so that it can also create virtual machines for our EKS cluster. Here you can see here there is a role, EKS auto cluster role, and we have EKS auto node role. To access other AWS services and resources, your nodes need an IAM role. Choose a role with the right permissions for your nodes. Now, what are nodes? Nodes are actually EC2 VMs. Okay, and we want to learn more details about this role. Click on this link, and we will get more details about this role, just like I have clicked on it. And now let us review the policies attached with this role. It will open in a while. Okay, now here you can see it has Elastic Container Registry, it has EC2 Container Registry pull only policy, and it also has EC2 Container Registry read only policy. So it has a couple of policies attached to it, and those policies are actually relevant to EC2. That's what I told you. And if we do not attach these roles with Elastic Kubernetes cluster, we would not be able to create the cluster because there are no roles, IAM roles attached with EKS to create nodes. Okay, let me give you another example of App Runner, AWS App Runner. And if you want to learn about IAM roles, just search EKS and you will be navigated to the page where you can create an EKS cluster, and from there you will learn the importance of IAM roles. That roles are super important to create. Whenever one service needs access to another service, we create a role. That is actually the simplest definition of a role. Whenever a service like EC2 needs access of service like S3, so we must create a role, and that role will help EC2 to communicate, to use S3 without any hazards, without even giving any S3 keys. Now here you can see I am on AWS App Runner, which is a fully managed service to deploy applications directly on the cloud. And from here I will create service. Okay, and create service. Okay, starting April, no longer accepting new customers. So I think this service is no longer active. So we have ECS Express mode. Oh yes, I remember. Now we deploy applications using Elastic Container Service. So I will just close it down. And from here, you must be able to see the task execution role, okay, infrastructure role, So all these roles are important when a certain service needs the access to another EC2 or AWS service. For instance, let me create a custom role, and I will create a role here, AWS service, and I will choose EC2 here. This is the simplest drill. So use case is EC2. Okay, now here you can see other roles as well, like EC2 role for AWS systems manager, EC2 spot fleet role, spot fleet tagging, EC2 spot instances. So all these are some use cases for IAM roles. I will click on next, and from here I will choose S3 full access. Now, why I'm doing that? Because my EC2 VM needs the access to a certain S3 bucket. So I will just create a role EC2 from using EC2 as trusted entity, and I will attach the S3 full access permissions to this role, to this service entity, and I will click on next, EC2 with S3. This is the name of the role, and here you can see the effect is allow. We are assuming it. Most of the IAM roles are assumptions, okay? And which service? We are assuming EC2 service, okay? So EC2 will have the permissions to access any S3 bucket, to store, to copy, to put the data or logs into a certain bucket. So I will just create this role, and now here you can see EC2 with S3 access role has been created, and this role has S3 full access. Now why? What is the importance of creating this role? So we are going to learn it from here. I will go to EC2 here, navigate to EC2, and I'm just having one EC2 instance here. Running instance is EC2. Now I have some logs, my application logs, that I want to put or copy, that I want to copy into an S3 bucket. Okay, so I will just select this VM, and I will go to actions, and from here storage, no, from here instance settings. Where is the IAM role? I think it is in security. So yes, in security, modify IAM role, and now we must be able to see the EC2 with S3 access role, because this role was attached using EC2 as the trusted entity. Okay, the EC2 was trusted entity, and we attached S3 full access. Now this is actually an instance profile. Okay, I will select this IAM role, and I will update the IAM role. Now this instance would be able to copy, to store the logs, the archives directly into an S3 bucket without without configuring any S3 access keys or any other credentials. Okay, so that's how we can create IAM roles, and that's how we can attach or modify an EC2 instance and attach any role with it. So that was actually the core concept of why we should create IAM roles. And here I have given you the practical example of creating an IAM role. So similarly, we can review that. We can also add more permissions. We can also add more policies. We can attach any further policies with this role EC2 with S3. Okay, so this is up to you who is managing the AWS account. So that's it, guys. for today's lecture. I hope that you learned a lot, and you learned about the IAM user groups, and also we created IAM users and added them into this user group EC2 team. And then we learned about the IAM role. Why do we need an IAM role? Because when one service wants to communicate, wants to talk with another service on your behalf, so you must create an IAM role. And I have given you the three practical examples of IAM roles. Like we create IAM roles in Kubernetes cluster, Kubernetes service. I have created this EC2 with S3 role, and I modified my EC2 instance and attached this role. So now my VM would be able to, I mean, copy or put the data, the logs into an S3 bucket. I won't need any S3 credentials configuration, or I don't need any S3 or AWS access keys, because I have attached an IAM role with full S3 access. So that's it for today's lecture. I will be winding up IAM here, and in advanced solutions architect course we are going to cover a lot more in IAM. Our next service would be EC2, Elastic Compute Cloud, and it is one of the biggest AWS service, and we are going to cover a lot of concepts in EC2. So I will meet you in the next lecture, and I try my best to keep uploading videos on this AWS Solutions Architect course. Make sure that you subscribe. DevOps Molvi. Have a good one, and bye.